Hi all. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira and today I am swatching all of my green eyeshadow palettes. Now, I've said before, and especially when I was doing my eyeshadow palette declutter, that I own a lot of green eyeshadows and I own a lot of green themed eyeshadow palettes, which is why I've put a soft moratorium on purchasing any new green eyeshadow palettes. There is one that has come out that has caught my eye. I'm not gonna lie, but I've held myself back. I don't know if that will continue, but I just recently saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Green is my favorite color, so it's very hard for me to resist. But what I thought it would help with my desire to purchase this green palette, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Beauty Bay. I think it's called the Earthly palette. They have a big giant one, which I'm not interested in at all, and they have I think a 16 and a 9 pan, and the one that I'm interested in is the 16, so it's like the middle child of the collection, and there are tones of green in there that I feel in my heart of hearts, I do not own. But we're going to find out if that's actually the case today. So what we're going to do is we're going to swatch all these green palettes, guys. I decided to narrow down the criteria. So we're not doing palettes that have like 1 or 2 green shadows in it. These are all of my palettes that can be considered green palettes because the predominant, or at least half of the color story, are green shades. So if you're interested in seeing me swatch all of the green eyeshadow palettes I own and talking myself out of buying that Beauty Bay palette, keep watching. All right, guys, so I figured we'd start with my big kahunas. So first off, we have this bad boy. Now, this is just a palette with all of my single shadows from my monochromatic Colourpop palettes that I depotted last month. One of those was the Just My Luck palette, which is the green monochromatic palette from Colourpop. And all of those shades are all of these right here. That's a lot of green, right? So let's get to swatching. We're going to swatch the mossy one. Don't worry. Love this shade so much. And I will say this, just to give you a heads up, my shades of green are the really mossy, swampy, yellow-toned, grungy, fugly greens. I love those greens. I don't own a lot of like true greens or Kelly greens of that nature, which is what is in the Beauty Bay palette. And it's why it's caught my eye so much, is because they're greens that I don't own a ton of. So that's just to give you like a heads up of like what you'll probably be seeing most in this little experiment. I don't have the names for these because they were printed on the palettes themselves and I tossed those. Now this one's really pretty and has a tiny bit of shimmer to it. It's kind of like a satin. This tone is really pretty. I like it. I like it a lot. We've got a mint here. And I'm gonna do, I mean, I guess I could do these in color coordinated fashion, but that's just way too organized for my personality type. So we're just gonna go by palette size. I feel like that's good enough. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's pretty. That's pretty too. And as you can see, it almost matches my nails. So pretty. I have so much green on my hands already. Let me wipe them off. Hold on. All right. Where did I leave off? This one? This one? Which one did I do? Did I skip this one? I think I did. Oh, that's so pretty. I guess this one is a green. Yeah, that's a green. That's a green. This one feels like more like a greeny gold. Oh, that's so pretty, like a greeny bronze. Yummy. Green makes me so happy. It's such a pretty color. It's a color of nature and money. Oh, look at that. Those are pretty. Now this shade here, this is the shade that I'm talking about. Like I have this shade here, but these are the kind of the greens that I don't really own a ton of. Or greens like the green on my fingers. I don't own a lot of those type of greens, but so we'll see. I mean, we're gonna keep going, but I feel like there's gonna be a theme here with the greens that I own. And you're gonna see why I never ever need another swampy green in my life ever again. All right, let's do Abh Norvina Volume 2. There she is. So I've got this one. I'm running out of space already. These shadows are on the thinner side when they swatch, but they actually apply to the eye really nicely. So I would say that they function better than they swatch. I will say that. And this one. And this one. Let's see if you guys can see that we're getting a little running out of space already. And I'll put this one here. This one. Pretty, pretty. Not a lot of greens in that, even though it's considered like the greeny palette. There's not a lot of greens in that one. I don't know why they call it that. So let's swatch these two bad boys. Let's swatch my Beauty Bay Wilderness and my Lowest Cosmetics. Let's start with Wilderness. So I kind of am debating if I should swatch these three because for me, I think of these more as like this one's a green, but then I think of these as like tealy, like turquoisey blue. So I'm probably going to just swatch this one and then these right here. So just letting you know. See, yeah, even there, that reads more like blue to me. Like it just has a lot of blue. It has a lot of blue, guys. That's pretty. Oh, oh yeah, look at that. Oh, Beauty Bay Metallics are insane. They really are. They're so, like, I don't know how to describe them. They have like a wetness to them that's just so interesting. Oh. And then this bad boy. Love that too. I'm not really a fan of these type of greens unless they're like a matte and it's like a kind of like a pastel-y or a neon. It's kind of giving something a little different, but still those greens are beautiful. And next to the other shades, this does look more green. I feel like it's one of those shades that it all depends on what shade you put it with, how green it's gonna look. All right, now let's slide on over Lowest Cosmetics. Meet me in the Underworld palette. I want to get more use out of this palette. I bought it and I used it a couple times and I haven't used it in a while. So definitely want to get more use out of this. But as you can see, this is a half and half palette. So it's half green and then half like rosy tones. My fingers are still quite, just wipe them off so they're not quite picking up shadow really well yet. There we go. I'm going to try not to blind you guys. Let me do this so I can keep this open for myself without blinding you. There we go. All right. Next up is this shade. That's pretty. This is kind of similar to that one, just a little more rich. I prefer that one, I have to say. And then we have, wipe the hands. This forest shade, excuse me, which actually reads like this, like almost like gray toned green. Look how pretty that is. Me like it. Now this one just reads like a plain old gold to me. Yeah, that's gold. So we're gonna skip over that one. But yeah, so pretty. As I say to my cat Finn, like you're so pretty.
All right.
So now we have Ace Beauté Oceanic and Venus XL2. So this one has quite a few greens in it, but they're very, very muted. They're very, I mean, yeah, muted. I guess that's the best way to describe them. They're very dusky. That's the word I'm looking for, dusky. So let's start off with Myth, which reads almost like a topper. See, it's not a whole lot to it, but it has that green tone to it. Yeah, that reads like a topper. Then we have Obscure, very minty. Not really a shade I would use. These types of shades don't really show up on my skin tone very well, as you can see. And can you guys see all of this? I hope so. I hope you can see it. Let me see. Is my... There you go. All right. Sage. Do that. Hopefully that'll help with the lighting a bit. And as you can see, these are very light, like very light on me. But I still love these tones, you know? And then let's see, Ivy. Locust is kind of a duochrome. It's kind of like a green to gold red. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch it, but I don't think it's that particularly green. But when I reach for this palette, I think of that as a green. All right, guys, we're back. I took a tiny little moment because there was a construction truck right outside my window and it was getting difficult to even hear myself. So I knew you guys wouldn't be able to hear me. All right, so this is the Oceanic palette. And as you can see, it's definitely like a half and half palette. So let's start with Anemone. And this is the old formula. This isn't the newer formula. I've never had issues with this palette, so I'm fine with keeping the old formula. I wouldn't mind trying their new formula in other palettes, like that new green palette that they have. That's pretty, although I can't justify it because it's pretty much just all swampy greens. Oh, look at that shade. Oh, so stunning. And what I love about this palette is the range of greens. Like, this is the type of green that I want more of in my life. I don't have a whole lot of that. That right there. How pretty is that? So stunning. This one, Pacific, is like a teal blue green. I feel like it can go in both categories, honestly. I'm going to go ahead and swatch it just to see, but I feel like it's more of a, yeah, look at that. You can kind of tell. See how blue that is up against the greens? Yeah, we're going to skip it. Never mind. Next up, I have my two green Melt Cosmetics palettes. Of course, first, she needs no introduction, and that is my Gemini palette. She's fabulous. She's the first Melt product I have ever owned. She is half green, half neutrals. So we're gonna, this shade I'm not gonna swatch. It's more like a yellow, so I don't really see the point in that. But I feel like this is a green palette. Even though it's not all green, when you think of the Gemini palette, this is what you think of. You think of the greens. You don't think of the tans, you know? So it would be remiss of me to swatch my green palettes and not swatch this one. It's very flaky, as you can see. Oh, look at those shades. These are the shades that, like, I tend to go for when it comes to greens, or these like murky greens. As you can see, like, there's so far I've swatched quite a few murky greens. Let's do Smoke Sessions. Now, I pulled this one out because, and you tell me what you think. Is this a green palette, or is it a blue palette? Or is it a tealy green palette? You know? Like, this is a teal green or a teal blue. What's that? That's a mean green. But these two, are these greens? This is the only green that I like can say with certainty is a green, but I felt like it would have been weird of me because I feel like some people look at this as a green palette. I mean, the cover is green. Look at that shade. Oh, so pretty. But, I mean, is that green? No, I feel like that's blue. But I had to pull it out just to sort of show you guys what I mean when I have a dilemma with this, that it's like green on the outside. But this doesn't look like, I don't know, guys. I mean, I guess this is green. This one's green. But that to me isn't green, that's blue. It's even called blue. It's called Blue Dream. So yeah, I pulled this out because I know people assume they consider that a green palette, but I don't think so. All right, now we have Collidos palettes. We have the Flower Punk and Sci-Fi Green. This one is still available to purchase. This one is not. Let's start with this one because, I mean, come on, look at it. That's green. All right, so we're gonna do this shade, which is kind of gold, kind of green. You see what I mean? It's not quite as green toned as that one, but it's pretty close. Then of course this shade. And it's a bummer that they discontinued this because I think this is such a beautiful palette and I love how curated it is. So if you're someone who's like wants to buy some greens, but you don't want a ton of them, you just want a few, this is a great option. How pretty that is. So those are the greens from Sci-Fi Green. I'm going to put a little insert in. I wish they would print their names on the inside because that's why I hold on to these so I know which shades they are. All right, and now we have Kaleidos Flower Punk. Now listen, when I purchased this, I was thinking about Sci-Fi Green and I was like, guys, I kind of feel like, I do like that the mirror can be moved so I don't have to worry about it blinding you guys. I'm like, this kind of reminds me a bit like half of Sci-Fi Green. So since we're here, let's swatch it up against Sci-Fi Green and see what we get. This is Earthship. I mean, look at that. Look at that. This one is from Sci-Fi Green. This one is from Flower Punk. Pretty damn close, and I actually prefer this tone. It's just a tad richer. And it could be because this is a newer palette and that's an older palette and it's just the way that they're swatching, but this feels better and a bit more rich in tone. Let's do Sungazer. Look at that shade. Wow. Wowee. That's pretty. That's really pretty. All right, should I do Golden Age? It's more like a yellow, you know, guys? Like, let's do Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll's more of a green. It's like a neon green yellow, you know? Let's see. Yeah, that's more of a neon green yellow. Look at that. It really depends on the lighting, but right now, if I'm looking at it in the camera monitor, it looks like a neon limey green. Yeah, this is a beautiful palette. Ironically, guys, even though I love these tones, like love them, these are the shades I use the most in this palette. What are you gonna do? You know, the final two palettes, these are two Colourpop palettes. I have the Mandalorian the Child palette and then the Tinkerbell palette. Now, get that out of the way. Make sure my arm is nice and dry. All right. This is definitely, to me, a green palette. I feel like that's pretty much a given. You know, look at all those greens. Let's get to swatching. How pretty these. And I love the tones of these greens. Like, as you see, like this one here, I mean, I don't feel like I have anything like that. Just from based on what I've swatched, I feel confident in saying that. Swatch it a little bit more. And this is one of those satin shades or sequin shades as they call them, and I'm not really a huge fan of those because I feel like as soon as you start blending them out, all of the so-called sequins just, you know, disappears. So they really should just make it a matte. So this here, so I don't blend you guys, I can keep that open. What I love about this shade is that it's green. Like when I'm looking at it here, it's green, but when you swatch it, it's almost like a green silver. So pretty. And then this shade here, it's a duochrome, but it's more of a like a yellowy gold duochrome. So we're gonna skip that one. Alrighty. And then Tinkerbell. Okay, so let's talk about this palette because what I love about this palette, first of all, I think this is a beautiful color story, such an interesting color story, especially for Colourpop. I feel like this is one of their more interesting for these like Disney collab palettes. They tend to be pretty, I mean, let's just say it, they tend to be pretty boring or basic. But these greens here, these two, and then this one, which is kind of like a bluey green, and I don't know if I'm going to swatch it. I might swatch it just for funsies so you guys can see it, but these shades here are why I purchased this palette. First of all, I've used this palette and it's so pigmented, as you can see, like hella pigmented. And what I like about this shade is that it has a tiny shift to it. It's green, but when you look at it, it's got a little something else going on, which I really enjoy. Then we're going to do Pixie Nest here. And then this one, which is called Neverland. And again, I feel like this is one of those shades. Is it green or is it blue? But here, it just looks like a really beautiful, rich greeny blue. Look at that. How pretty is that tone? I love this shade. Love it. Oh, I need to use this palette like this week. It's so pretty. I love that. All right. All right, guys, so I'm gonna let you help me make this choice. I'm gonna put a picture up of that Beauty Bay palette. I'm gonna say to you, I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you think I need that palette? After having seen all of my green palettes, what do you think? Is it something that I need to add to my collection, or you're like, girl, just skip it? You have way too many or more than enough greens, you know? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like the video. And if you are not subscribed, please be sure to subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.